Governor Greg Abbott, the great state of Texas, is here. How are you, sir?
Sean, I'm doing great. Great to visit with you again.
The numbers are staggering. I frankly don't understand why there's not more urgency to fix it. Forget about the Democrats. Why don't the Republicans in Congress fix it?
Sean, this is the frustration that people across the United States have, and that is people are angry at both the Republicans and the Democrats because they are sitting up there in Washington, D.C., doing absolutely nothing to solve this problem. So Texas took matters into our own hands. During a legislative session that we just concluded, we passed our own plan to secure our border, doing what the federal government has failed to do. We passed an $800 million plan to put more boots on the ground on that border that you've seen. We are adding more Department of Public Safety officers. We're adding more airplanes in the air, more boats like the one that you rode in on the Rio Grande River, more technology, including cameras that will show us virtually almost the entire border region who is crossing when. So the taxpayers of the state of Texas are stepping up and shouldering the responsibility because Republicans and Democrats in Washington, D.C. are not taking care of a constitutional responsibility to protect the sovereignty of the United States of America.
It's really unbelievable to me because you're 100% right. Texas is bearing the burden of this. Arizona is bearing the burden of this. California is bearing the burden of this. And I can tell you even states like New York. And you see illegal immigrants now have impacted every single state in the country. The president moves with executive amnesty, and then Republicans swear they're not going to fund it, and then they go fund it, Governor. What is wrong with them?
Sean, you mentioned something important, and that is people, all your listeners across the entire nation need to understand this is not a Texas issue. This is not a border issue. This is a national issue. You mentioned what is going on up there in New York. I want to tell you a story. A couple of months ago, I had Scott Walker done to the border to show him exactly what was going on, and at that time, we showed him how drug cartel activity that originates in either Mexico or Central America works its way all the way up to his state of Wisconsin. This is something that crisscrosses the entire country, and it is the states that are shouldering the responsibility. There was another story that came out today in the National Review that showed in the past year $1.8 billion was spent in 2014 to jail illegal alien criminals. Now think about this number. And it's mostly the states that are left shouldering this responsibility. That is $1.8 billion in 1 year alone. If the federal government would appropriate that money to secure the border, the states would not have to be spending that money to jail these people who are here as illegal aliens.
I just can't believe that America's putting up with this. I know what the Democrats' motive is. They think that 8 out of 10 of new immigrants are going to vote Democratic, so they're looking long term, and this is generational for them, and they're hoping that they build a constituency that will keep them in power for decades and decades to come. Republicans seem short-sighted. I mean, they went back, and in the Senate, Ted Cruz was really ticked off at Mitch McConnell the other day because they moved forward with this import-export bill, which is basically taxpayer subsidized funding, or at least insurance, of billions of dollars in corporate cronyism, but they can't secure the border. They can't build the fence. We were promised 750 miles of fence. We got 30 miles and they quit.
And they're doing absolutely nothing, and that is why, once again, in addition to Texas spending the money out of our own taxpayers to secure the border, that's also why I, in my last act as the Attorney General of Texas before I became governor, I filed that lawsuit against Obama, challenging his illegal amnesty executive order, and we've been winning along the way. And so we're winning in securing the border, we're winning in shutting down these programs. But listen, the states can only do so much. We have to have a chief executive. We have to have leaders in the House and Senate who are going to step up and address this problem. Otherwise, not only are we having the criminal problem that you mentioned at the very beginning, but this is turning into a huge fiscal problem where we are wasting taxpayer money because the federal government is not doing what it needs to be doing.
Texas may have to just secede at some point and just be their own little country. The way it is, I mean, Texas is just an entirely different animal than the rest of the country. And it's frustrating because you guys are doing it right as far as I see, and the rest of the country's got it wrong. I'm going to have to get a mini ranch over there in Texas and learn how to raise cattle and do some farming.
Now, we talked about that last time, about the possibility of you moving to Texas. I got some news for you. Since we talked last time and you were contemplating moving, I want you to know that we cut taxes in Texas even more. So however much you were going to be able to keep in moving to Texas last time,
you're going to have to find me a baby ranch.
More.
So I talked to Rick Perry, your predecessor, and I said, I don't want to get a baby ranch. He says, we have them some 500 acres. And I'm like, no. I said a baby ranch. One that has water, one that I can survive. A survivalist ranch would be good, where I can go out shooting, raise some cattle, have some fun. The only thing I want to say is I don't want this to be the Department of Tourism for Texas, because if people from New York, New Jersey, Illinois, Pennsylvania, California, Washington State, Oregon want to move to Texas, that's fine. But if they're liberal, they better leave their liberal politics at home.
Hey, I got some good news for you.
Yeah.
And that is when I was running in my campaign for governor against Wendy Davis, we did this polling to find out, who do you support, Greg Abbott or Wendy Davis? But we also added another demographic question. The typical question, what's your age range, your income range, et cetera. We added a question, have you moved to Texas recently from another state? Yeah. Astonishingly, about 15% of the people have moved from California. The next largest state was New York. And people were concerned, well, gosh, are we getting a bunch of liberals moving in the state of Texas? We found out that about 2/3 of the people who are coming to Texas from other states are conservative, and they voted for me. And there's a reason why. If you are dependent on
can we kick the other third out that voted for Wendy Davis?
Well, listen, think about this. If you are dependent on government, the last place you would leave would be California or New York. If you're dependent on government, the last place you would come to is the state of Texas.
Listen, I just don't want a great state like Texas or Florida, to be perfectly frank. I like Florida, too, is to leave these states alone. It's like, you've already ruined the state you're leaving. Don't wreck the state you're going to. Well, I got to run. But anyway, great job, Governor. I appreciate it. If you find out like a little baby Hannity ranch, maybe 100 acres, I'm in.
500 acres is a baby ranch in Texas.
Oh, my gosh. Wow. And how much is it an acre?
Well, it depends on where you are, but the prices are lower, and because of the tax cuts, the cost of living is going down.
And I can have do these have their own water? They're
absolutely
self-sustaining, the whole bit.
Our lakes are full, and our roads are plentiful.
All right, Governor, great job. Oh, by the way, I got one more question. So
sure.
you got two Texans running for president. Are you supporting either one?
Here's what I'm doing right now, Sean. I want to make sure that we have a president who is, A, going to secure the border, B, that is going to ensure that we get rid of every single word of Obamacare, that will pull back the reins on the EPA. And so I'm going to wait and see which of the candidates do that, and also which candidate is going to step up and finally stand on the United States Constitution. Yeah. And I'm going to see how that plays out.
I'm with you. I'm in the same spot as you are. But I like the two Texans running. I like Governor Perry a lot. I like Ted Cruz a lot. I think they're both great men. I really do.
Well, as you know, Ted Cruz served as my Solicitor General when I was Attorney General, and I worked closely with Governor Perry on fighting back against the federal government.
You're in a pickle. You got a tough spot there. All right.
It'll work itself out.
All right, Governor. Thank you. 800